got to be rare though, right? That's not common practice.
Well, maybe not for everybody, but we always had precautions in order. So you're going to text me and tell me where you're going, who you're with, all of that. It was common a lot. And well, as you know, I was a bartender for many years.
Right.
So I watch all that stuff when I was a bartender. Yeah. I'm like, hey, where are you going? Where are your friends at? Do they know where you're going? I absolutely did that.
I guess what I'm wondering is did dating become more dangerous?
Not for us. It's always been that way.
Well, and here's where I'm thinking, like, at least in person, you know who you're dealing with, right? For all intent and purpose. You don't have an anonymous profile.
Well, there was more people that would see you. So, like, say you met at a bar, you had a group of people that saw what was going on. You're doing it on an app. You don't even know if that's their real name.
That's what I mean. Yeah. The spoof accounts, that kind of thing, just for the purposes of harm.
Yep.
Right.
And I think, fortunately, the apps want it to be real, and so they ask you for identifiers and phone numbers and things like that.
Oh, okay.
That's
to a point, but it's very minimal.
To a point. But I've absolutely matched with people where, after 3 days of speaking with them, they say, oh, by the way, my name isn't, Jennifer, it's Stacy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, well, why'd you lie about
this is starting off poorly. Yeah. Would
you
do that at a bar? Right. Would you do that at a bar? You wouldn't do that at a bar, I don't think. I don't know.
No, a lot of women do that.
But it stems from concern, right? So it's someone who, like, if you don't know, like, there's a lot of profiles you see of people where it's just a photo of a lake, and there's no information, and that seems to indicate someone who isn't sure that they want to be on there or not, and
that indicates to me that they're married.
I think it could
a lot of
mean
time.
A number of things. It could be someone trying to find out if their spouse or the person they're dating is on there, and they're trying to find them. I've seen that happen, right? So there's a whole spectrum of things of why people are there.
A lot. So you learn the little tricks.
Not doing this.
Oh yeah. So you learn the little tricks. Like, one of the things I tell everybody is, like, if it says that, if you're looking for long term and it says recently divorced, recently separated, or separated, what was the other one? Just got out of a long-term relationship, anything, that's a red flag for me. Unless you're going in it just for sexual purposes, which, if that's your intent, okay, that's your intent. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's certain things to look for. If their bio is spent being angry, and you better not blah, 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 which happens a lot.
All the advance warnings.
Yeah. I will not hang out with you unless you hang out on the first date. Hey, guess what? That's a red flag. And you just trust your intuition. If you get a bad feeling about somebody on there by just reading or looking at the picture, trust that. It's there for a reason, and just swipe left.
So this is where it's challenging. This is where I think that the whole thing is just absolutely fraught with peril. So
fraught is an underused word. Peril, you've used what? You've perilous and peril. I like that too.
It's fascinating to me to see people lead off with negatives. So if a dating app profile is ultimately your mechanism to market yourself, then at some level you have to consciously or intuit that you are a product, and you're trying to put yourself out there, and maybe not view yourself as a product, but like, how would I want to put myself forward? How do I want people to see me?
What do I want you to see me? Yeah.
Because that initial impression it's yay or nay, and it's seconds. And so it's like, how do I want them to see me? So for myself, I chose, like, well, always go with the positive. Big smiley photos, had a couple, cute dog photos, adventure photos.
Oh, you went the dog route. I know your tricks.
It's gold. But instead of, like, being the bleeding heart, oh, looking for love, and I wanted this and that and a blah, all that, I just put up jokes, which ultimately got me deplatformed.
That was a strategy. I remember you talking about that. That was a strategy.
And it's actually a really good strategy.
Let's see if this works. And then you got booted.
And so you get deplatformed.
How did you get deplatformed for that?
My opening line was, Cardi B is to music what Jeffrey Epstein was to chivalry.
I would have swiped you.
You knocked Cardi B. That was the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Knock Epstein all you want.
And then somehow probably was calling a terrible human being, a chivalrous individual. Like, some people are too stupid to interpret the basics, but
really what you're saying there, in case the listening audience doesn't know, is you're saying you didn't like Cardi B's music.
I think she's,
you know what I mean? Like that's really the statement there. And if you come out and you put that in your profile,
to music, her contribution to music is what Jeffrey Epstein's contribution to chivalry was.
Right.
It's that.
But I'm wondering, I mean, I do want to explore this for a second, because
you just
communication. Let's not go there. So the statement is important, because if you had just said, I'm Adam, I go backpacking, I like ice hockey, I hang out with my dog, and I don't listen to Cardi B's music because I think it sucks, you're not getting deplatformed for that. Why the difference? And you guys are really smart people. We're all pretty intelligent fools, and two of us work specifically in human behavior.
People are easily
what's
triggered.
the answer?
That's triggering.
Why though? What makes it triggering?
Well, because people are trained to be babies.
It could be these days. Sure.
Non-self.
Maybe.
We've gotten to a point where
Occam's razor.
Being a victim and projecting that you are offended or a victim is rewarded.
That's
really celebrating accurate. Certain things is rewarded, and ultimately we're pack animals.
Yeah, we're conditioned to.
We're not, but
respond.
We are, right? We're communal animals, and so we want to. There's a thing with social interaction where you want to be part of the group, and so if the group is rewarding a certain behavior, you're going to exhibit that behavior, whether you believe it or not. You're going to do it. So back to the whole thing about it being fraught with peril, though.
Yeah.
So I noticed.
Thanks for indulging me, by the way.
Yeah. So I noticed a number of people who let off with like incredibly negative things. It was F you if you're going to do this and that, blah, 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 blah. And my instinct is, oh, you unpleasant woman, I want nothing to do with you.
I really want you to read Walk Through Anger.
But maybe she's not an unpleasant person. Maybe she just got 68 dick pics sent to her and was verbally assaulted by absolute savage men. And she's like, hey, if you're going to be an asshole, I'm not interested in you. And so what happens? I see a snapshot of who someone is in an emotional moment that she's put forward. And my mind has to fill in 99.99% of the gaps. And then my assumptions can't be correct, but they're going to fill in the gaps. And then I make a judgment about who she is as a person, her character, her behavior, our ability to connect and establish a friendship, relationship, courtship, any of those things. And she's dismissed as a person. And it's terrible to practice dismissing people. The other thing that I think is challenging is that why I think it's so, and this sort of gets to my line of thinking or about like what communication is, how it developed and evolved, and where we're at today, is that when you match with someone, you immediately have hope. And I'd say you have hope before you match with them. When you see them send out interest, swipe right, leave a comment, whatever the thing is, you have hope. And then you have even more when they match with you. And
how many people whose name is literally Hope did you experience that with?
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyone named Hope listening to this?
And then match with despair. So you hope that the person is who they are relative to how they presented themselves. And you hope that you connect, and you hope that it goes somewhere, and you hope all these things, because at the end of the day, we all want connection. And connection has a variety of applications, but that's ultimately what's at the core of all of this. And so when you talk and you're communicating via text, and if things are going well and there's chemistry and there's fluidity and they seem to be able to pick up on tone reasonably accurately, so things like sarcasm are brutal to try to figure out if you think about it via text.
Which is why we have emojis, by the way. And those of you who are old enough can remember and think back to when we did just ASCII emojis, where it's colon and a parenthesis.
But even emojis are very helpful, but even those can be misinterpreted.
Sure, they don't fill the gap.
I recently ran into an issue where I texted someone. It was nothing more than a factual statement with a smiley face, and the smiley face was interpreted as me talking down to them and belittling them. And I was like, "What?" So it was interpreted as a derogatory, sarcastic, in your face statement, and it wasn't intended to be, but that's how it came across. Because I wasn't able to be there in the room with the person and they weren't able to see the wink on my face or the chuckle or whatever. So anyway, so when you're texting someone, the communication's going well, the chemistry is building, and you're feeling positive emotions and you're hopeful and you want to move things forward. But the mind still doesn't have 99% of the gaps, 99% of the information, but the mind is hardwired to fill in those gaps. And so it does. And it does so with a lot of assumptions. And if the chemistry is going well and the communication is going well, it's filling them in with positives. You start to imagine what their voice sounds like.
Yeah.
You start to imagine what their body language is. You start to imagine what their style of humor is. You start to imagine all of these things, believe them to be true. And then you meet face to face, and there's a huge disconnect between who they really are and who you've imagined them to be.
That's what Jung called projection, by the way.
Yeah. And then you have with cognitive dissonance, where like they don't line up with the idea of what, like who they are in reality doesn't line up with your idea of who they are. And your brain has to try to solve for that and figure it out. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. And I've had a number of situations where there's mutual attraction, you connect, the chemistry is there, and then you meet face to face, and both people are like, something's just off. You're like, yeah, you're not the person I imagined you to be. And you're probably a great person. And had I met you in a different context, nothing would feel off. It would all be as fluid and great as our texting conversations. But we spent so much time covering so much content without any context for who the other person was, that we are in different spaces.
Good, wouldn't it be good?
And then you go, oh, well, maybe this wasn't meant to be. Maybe this isn't a good fit. And it's like, it actually could be an amazing fit, but because of the medium that we met and how we established that connection.
Well, and you still can. I definitely got friends out of it where we're both like, no, but you're cool.
Same. Yeah.
But that's also the difference that I mention a lot, is the difference between hope and expectation. So the problem is when we have expectations on what's going on, this is what develops. And then we get this like fantasy or this image in our head, and then we actually meet in person and it's not that image. But if you go into it, it would be cool and this would be awesome, but we give up that expectation of, oh, this is the person I'm going to be with forever. This is the relationship I want, or whatever. But you just be in the moment. Enjoy the time. You're meeting somebody new. It doesn't mean that you can't have fun. You can have fun with them. Say you go to, when the world was around, and you went to like an escape room or something, just enjoy it. And if that turns out to not be the person that you do, you want to develop something more with, and that's fine. You got a new friend. But when we put the expectations on ourselves, then we're like, oh, well, now I can't even be friends because I met you on an app. But if there's no expectation and you're just going to meet somebody new and allowing what to happen or what's going to happen, then everybody's good.
Let me ask this, because I'm really curious. And I've gotten a variety of answers, and I've talked to a couple of people about it. Why even date with apps? I mean, it's not necessary in my head. I get the pushback, especially for older people who are busy. But like, come on, this is but it predated lockdowns.
Oh, yeah.
But so okay, I get the technical reasons, but they didn't exist 10 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? Nobody was, oh man, I guess I'm just gonna have to leaf through the phone book. My concern, and this is why I'm asking this, comes from our broader culture pushing a message of do more with less, instant gratification, highly customizable, and that's just the fact of the day, right? And it's like, well, maybe it's not necessarily universally applicable or true. It's great that I can get DoorDash to drop off food at my house and I don't actually have to go out and purchase it, let alone buy the ingredients and make it myself, God forbid. But do we really need to do that in all aspects of our life?
But I think of the fear and the social anxiety aspect. So back before apps were super popular, you went to a bar, you had to